Hey, David, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. I
All
can.
right. Hey, there's a great looking photograph of you there.
That's me in the younger days. Is that Josh sitting next to you?
Yes. I got Josh on my right, Steve on my left.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Josh.
It's 61 back. We're going to run it on my way back in January. I'm going to see what it's kind of worse.
Hey, Sandy, how you feeling?
I am tough as nails.
I know you
How
are.
are you?
Well, nonetheless, I'm praying for you. My family's praying for you.
Thank you. And I feel them.
Hey, David.
Yes, sir.
Did we get confirmation or did we do the invite to make sure that Senator Hackworth was aware of the
Yes.
meeting? Okay.
Yes, we covered that. He will not be participating, though. He is traveling, but he did get
Okay.
a packet and invitation.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, David.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, Sandy Ratliff.
How are you? Long time no see.
Absolutely. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Well, my phone says 5 o'clock. David, is that what time you all have as well?
Yes.
Okay. So this is my fourth Zoom of the day. So if something is not right, it is all David Batlock's fault or Adam Tolbert's. So I'm going to, okay, so all the others have worked well today. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome everyone to this board meeting of the Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center Board of Trustees meeting and read the following statement, which we should all have memorized by this point. But here goes. This board meeting is being conducted in accordance with Section 2.2-3708.2 of the Code of Virginia and Item 4-0.01 of Chapter 552 of the 2021 Special Session 1 Acts of the Assembly to conduct regular business. In consultation with the Executive Director, I've determined that it would both be impractical and unsafe to assemble a quorum in a single location for this meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss or transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the public body and discharge of its lawful purposes, duties, and responsibility. I'd like to ask everyone to keep their lines muted unless you're speaking. And I'll now call upon Stephen on our secretary to do a roll call.
Okay. Maria Colabro.
Present.
Joshua Eli. Hannah Ingram.
Present.
Lenny Gale Mitchum.
Present.
Dr. Keith Farrington.
Here.
Sandy Ratliff. I think we
Present.
Chancellor Donna Henry.
Present.
President Adam Hutchinson. Present. Andy Casiello.
Present.
Scott Kemp.
Present.
Alex Hernandez. Susan Parrish.
Present.
Susan Short.
Present.
John Wells. John Wells. Delegate Mark Key.
Yes, present. Sorry for being late.
Delegate Terry Kilgore. Steve On is present. Senator Todd Pillion.
I'm present.
Donna Stanley.
Present.
Delegate Joe Johnson. David Olive.
Present.
And I believe we do not have Brian Hemphill, Delegate Chris Hurst, or Delegate Sam Rasul.
Chris Hurst is here. Sorry, folks.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you.
And Steve, does that give us a quorum?
Present.
Terry Kimball. Gotcha. We're good to go.
All right. Thank you, Steve. The next thing that we have, I think that we have, there are two sets of minutes to approve. Those of the December 10th regular full board meeting and those of the January 12th special call meeting of the full board to approve the executive director's employment agreement. Is there a motion to approve both sets?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Matlock.
there is a correction to the December 10th minutes. Ms. Donna Stanley, Dr. Donna Stanley, she was present.
Okay, so we'll make that correction. And do I have a motion to approve the amendment, the minutes as amended?
I move approval.
This is
Do I
Keith
have a s-
Pearson. I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes from both of those meetings, say aye.
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 And all those, any opposed? All right, so those minutes are approved. I'm now going to turn over the meeting to our executive director, who's going to give us some financial reports and his proposed fiscal year 2022. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As always, it gives me great pleasure to remind everyone that the Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center is a great place doing great things because of great people. And before I talk about the financial reports, I'd like to just make sure that as you're looking at your packs today, don't forget to look at the college reports. We have some great partners here, and they're doing a lot of great things. Just this last week, Virginia Tech finished up a great series on public administration with the town of Abington. Today, UVA-Wise had graduation for the workforce development summer camp. And I think tomorrow there's a big open session for an event with Bluefield College. So I know everybody's doing things, but I just want to say thank you and just brag on your staff for a second. We are a great place doing great things because of your great people. They represent you well. Real quickly, if you'll look at the tab, it says financial report. I can report that we remain a very effective and efficient state agency. We exceeded our budget that you approved in lots of different ways, and we can talk about that in more depth later, maybe some in the closed session. But if we look at the approved with budget, the first line item or the first column on the left, and in the middle is our projected year end. If we just look at just total general revenue, general fund revenue, we're up about $242,000. But most of that is because of some CARES Act money we got, and we'll talk about later about how we spent that. Our non-general revenue, we budgeted, because we normally get close to $1 million there. We only budgeted $590,000. We exceeded that revenue. As far as funds from the Educational Trust Fund and Maintenance Reserve, those monies were secured. So if we pull out the Higher Education Trust Fund and Maintenance Reserve in both the income and the expense category, our income was up. Our revenue was up by $481,000 in the middle of a national pandemic. And if you pull out the CARES Act funds, which we only got a few $1,000s, we had a revenue, we exceeded our budget by $250,000, $242,847. And I'll just have to say that was only accomplished because of the dedication and skills of our entire team here. So there's nothing about me. I just get to drive. All hard work was done by great staff. So under the approved, under the projected for the last year's budget, we met and exceeded all expectations. When it came to expenses, overall, we did extremely well there too. The only area that we exceeded the approved budget was in some personnel. We had some changes. We had some new costs with DHRM. So we were up a little bit on the personnel. But when you get to the third page on other than personnel, equipment and supplies, program support and funds, we actually had budgeted to have a balanced budget, $404,917,000. When you pull out maintenance reserve and the trust fund, that's about $3,700,000. Well, our projected end, when we pull all that out, it's about $2,700,000. So we because of that, we're going to finish the year with a surplus of somewhere around $1,600,000, which is pretty doggone good for a very small state agency. So I can tell you with great assurance that we are very efficient and effective. So before I talk about the proposed budget for 22, any particular questions about the projected fiscal year 21 budget?
We are certainly to be commended, David, on that. Good stewardship of the state's money and running a very, very efficient center. Does anyone have any questions for David or comments? Well, hearing none, David, I'd say go ahead and talk about your proposed budget.
Okay, well, the proposed budget, we do have a new income item under the apprenticeship program under state revenues. If you look at the second line there on the third column is $1 million. I would like to thank all of our partners in the General Assembly for their hard work. As many of you are aware, in 2019, we worked with the General Assembly for the passage of a new state program that the governor signed in to law. This rural apprenticeship program will be the fiscal agent for 17 counties and 5 municipalities. It was funded last year, but then because of COVID, the new funding was pulled out. Thankful that it was put back in this year. So that program will be hitting the ground running full steam in July. There may be a chance in closed session to talk about that some more. So revenue is going to be up about $1 million, maybe a little bit more than that, because we expect to see some increases in other areas of revenue as we come out of this national pandemic. Under non-general funds, we projected, I'm very conservative in my projections, so I didn't project a huge increase, but I have presented you a very balanced budget. I did go ahead and budget for the maximum in personnel. Again, we're going to have some new expenses. Everybody in the state's getting a 5% pay raise in fiscal year 22. So that's almost $100,000 in cost to us. Hopefully we'll get some relief there later in the year from the state. But in all the other areas, I remain pretty consistent. So I have presented you a budget that if things go as projected, we would end next year with about $1,400,000 in our contingency fund. And so I put it there, Mr. Chairman, this is something that the board would need to approve today as an action step before we go any further.
All right. So does anybody have any questions or comments for the proposed fiscal year 22 budget? And as David said, that does require a vote. And if anyone has any comments or questions, I'd be glad to entertain those now. Otherwise, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor of the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget as presented, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, we have adopted the budget. David, I think there's some other things you may want to talk about as well. Is that true?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll be very quick. Under the key performance indicators, I will not have a finalized handout to give you till after we close out the year. But I can just tell you that I believe that everyone will be very pleased. We're hitting all the targets. So again, that's because of great people. And so I look forward to sharing that with you later in July. As far as the COVID-19 transition and infectious disease preparedness and response plan, at our December meeting, Ms. Nikki Riley covered that in great detail with everyone. That's still out there on our website for you to review. And I just want to report that in the middle of a national pandemic, I don't know how you report this other than saying that we had no issues here at the Higher Education Center. As far as we know, no one was exposed at our center. No one was sick and came to work sick at our center. And so we went well beyond the call of duty. Again, it was because of a great team and the work with that infectious response disease plan and that team that put that together. So it went really well. I just wanted to brag on them. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have under the executive director's report, unless anybody has any questions for me.
We did have a new air system installed, didn't we?
Yes, we got a few things. In fact, next on the agenda, Jeff Webb, our operations officer, is going to talk a little bit about some of the exciting things. Is that where you're going?
I was just curious if that had, if you thought that may have had, beneficial effects of keeping COVID sort of out of the building.
Well,
great segue, Steve. So next on our agenda, we'd like to hear from Jeff Webb on the construction update. But before you do that, I would like to say, just like David was mentioning about the COVID-19, their infectious disease preparedness and response plan, while that was certainly a great thing, what was also great, and we may have mentioned this before, is David and the center's continued support of the Virginia Department of Health and their vaccination program there at the Higher Education Center. I know that there's some people on this call. In fact, I know Hannah's been very active with that, with the health department. But we certainly appreciate the leadership that the center has shown in accommodating them and providing them with a clean and efficient space that is to be, frankly, to be envied by the rest of the Commonwealth. And we appreciate your leadership there, David, and the entire team that you have assembled there to work in conjunction with the Department of Health. So with that, let's continue on with Jeff Webb and the construction update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I gave a presentation at the last board meeting, and this will just be a review of that with some status updates on the new addition, what we called the new addition and generator project. Of course, the purpose was to create some extra space for us to have storage for conference services, maintenance, and housekeeping departments. And the second floor was to be used as additional offices and classroom space. And as part of the project, a new 300 kilowatt natural gas generator for additional emergency power loads. We also repaved the asphalt behind the building, and that project has been complete. There was an add-on project that we called the office renovation project, which extended the admin offices back into the old kitchen area, added 4 new office spaces, and a new maker space. Next. Some additional projects that's been going on, especially during the COVID period. We added a completely new fire alarm system, simplex, with extended capabilities for monitoring and alerting. Also completed, we purchased new furniture for the new addition and the office renovation areas. Another completed item was we replaced just recently all the carpet on the second floor, including the classroom, offices, and the hallways. And we also completed installing new vinyl composition tile, all of it in the back hallway, the side hallways, and the catering areas on the first floor. The HVAC project's been going on for several months. There were 70 plus units that were installed, actually 63 HVAC units, some exhaust fans, an outside air handler, and all of that is completed except for the outside air unit that's on top of the grand hall. There's been some extensive rezoning that took place in some areas to make it more efficient. And so my guess is it's about probably about 95% complete. We also added on another unit for the new addition, what we call the 2010 edition on the east end of the building, that will replace that unit that's about 11, 12 years old and starting to give us some trouble. Another project that's still in progress is the exterior glass replacement, glazing. It's expected to start in the fall. There's been some hiccups with getting the funding released from DPB due to some procurement issues, but we expect that to start in the fall. And some future projects, first floor carpet replacement and some furniture replacement in some of the offices and public areas. Next. And I'm just going to go through and just quickly go through some pictures so you can see this is the new addition on the rear of the building. Next. Our new testing center with the check-in office. Next. This is just one of the offices that's been occupied so far. Next. A couple of offices that are designated but not occupied. Next. Conference services office downstairs on the first floor. Our new freight elevator, which is come in really, really handy so far. This is our housekeeping storage space. One of the conference services storage spaces. Sorry, did I get that one in there twice? Another conference services storage space, which is quickly filling up, as you can see. I'm not sure where we had all this stuff in the past. And this is a maintenance work storage area that's on the west end of the new addition. This is the office renovation where the admin offices were extended back through that hallway with 4 new additional offices. And then these are a couple of the offices that are just about to be occupied. Another one. And this is the new makerspace area that will be completed shortly. We've just been waiting on getting the new lights and the wiring installed so that they could reinstall the ceiling grid. So we should be completing that within the next few weeks. And on the second floor, I mentioned the carpet replacement. This is a new look. And down the back hallway and one of the side hallways. And the vinyl composition tile replacement in the catering areas and the back hallways. And that's all I have for you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're muted.
Sandy, I am, and I'm going to blame that on David Matlock. I appreciate you, Sandy. So, David, I'm sorry, Jeff. We certainly appreciate your update there, and I know you all been working really hard on the construction there and getting it completed, and that's some space that is definitely going to be used by the conference services, if not everyone else in the building. So we appreciate that. Next up, we have the foundation chair, Mr. Gary Hurl. Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Hurl. I'm managing member of Elevation Ventures, a venture advisory firm here in Abingdon. I'm also president of Elevation Energy Solutions, a clean energy development company to businesses and organizations across the country. And I'm also honored to be chairman of the Higher Ed Center Foundation. From the very beginning, the foundation was formed to support the programs and the team here at the center. I think everyone, all of the board members understand that and appreciate that. It was first started to primarily be an administrator of grants to companies and organizations being funded by the Virginia Tobacco Commission. But as that program transitioned, the foundation became more of a traditional foundation. And so since that time, I've been chairman. It's hard to believe it's been 3 or 4 years. I can't believe it. But, during that time, we've had a couple of goals. One is to enhance and improve the operational and governing policies and procedures of the foundation. And then secondly, to heighten the resources and the financial performance of the foundation assets. We've, in particular, the foundation owns the Southwest Virginia, what was the Energy Center. And, it now is an asset. We rent it to an orthopedic surgery group. It generates revenues for the foundation and then helps to support certainly programs for the center. And, as far as, the balances and everything that's currently in the foundation, the total balances from all accounts is approximately $636,925. Of that, $539,000 is unrestricted. And, certainly that's a material amount. I think in time, I'd love to be able to see that in one sense much higher. I'd love to see that being, a couple of $1 million, but then too, I'd like for it to be close to nothing, knowing that we could, put all of those monies, cycle those monies through to the center and be able to support, expanded programs for the higher education center. I'll close on the fact of next steps of what maybe we're wanting to do going forward. I think in this new fiscal year, we want to be able to go back and maybe update the strategic plan for the center to be able to identify additional sources of income. We've never really done any kind of a fundraising campaign or reached out to, really generate other sources of income. And it's one thing that, I'm looking forward to doing in this new fiscal year. I think that certainly as the programs have expanded at the center, we want to be there to support those programs. And, it's just been, it's been a great stint. And, I believe in the center even more today than, when I started. And I really appreciate everybody's help and support that's on the call there. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Gary? I know I've been involved some with the foundation, and Gary and the entire board do a great job managing that and supporting the center there. And I know David, as well as the rest of the board, certainly appreciates your hard work on that, Gary.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to just point out, Chairman Gary Earl did not mention this, but the foundation is going to provide half the funding, dollar for dollar match for a new position here at the center for a grant writer. As we see no significant increase in state general funds, and we go after funding to support other programs, we're going to need a grant writer. And so the foundation stepped up under Gary's leadership and said, let us pay for half of that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome, Mayor David.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Gary? Well, thank you, Gary. We appreciate you joining us today.
Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. See you.
And I know that at this time we need to go into closed session. I think that's correct, right, Mr. Matlock?
That is correct.
And I know that we do need a motion, and I would call on our secretary to make that motion.
Okay. I move that the Board of Trustees of the Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center convene in a closed session, closed meeting pursuant to section 2.2-3711A1 and 2.2-3711A8 for discussion of personnel matters and consultation with legal counsel. More specifically, the discussion of the executive director's performance and evaluation. We will need a second on that.
So we have a motion. Do we hire a second to go into closed session?
Second, Donahue.
A second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. And at this point, we need a vote by each member. Is that correct, Steve?
No, we just need it's not a roll call.
Okay, just a vote. Okay. All right. So all in favor of going into closed session, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?